Now that we've covered the entirety of the No Game No Life anime on the channel, I want to go back and examine the importance that information played in Sora and Shiro's journey throughout Disboard, and how their tactics and strategies evolved with more understanding of the world and their opponents. This was a large focus of the midpoint of the anime, episodes 5 to 8, where Sora and Shiro were stuck. They needed to find more information to be able to take that next step forward, lest they allow Elkia to collapse. They knew they were on the breaking point, and information was the most important thing to them, something that humanity at large, up until that point, did not understand. And we can see how important information was, and how Sora and Shiro knew how important it was, used that to their advantage from the very first moment that they got to Disboard. They were in this completely foreign world, knew nothing about it, had to discover the rules and intricacies of the pledges for themselves, had to discover that magic existed in this world for themselves, and had to learn to navigate it on their own, with the majority of the information that they gained being due to Sora's ability to read people. When he first talks with the innkeeper, determining the value of the currency in this new world, he had to use his skill to discern whether the innkeeper was trying to rip him off and what the true value of a single gold coin was. But out of all of it, the only important piece of information that they gained that would help them in the next game to come was the knowledge that magic existed and that Kurumi was using it. Beyond that, they had no other useful information going into the game against Kurumi. Their backs were against the wall, and they had to enter the game of real war chess without the knowledge of what was to come. They didn't know what game was going to be played, and they didn't know how exactly they were going to win it. Shiro took the lead, and Sora had to stay back, reading the rules of the game, and had to learn how to win the game in that moment, while playing the game. Unlike the games to come in the future, where they were able to gain more information beforehand, and the evolution of their strategy really took hold. And this becomes very evident when we compare three games in particular in the No Game No Life anime: Real War Chess, Materialization Shiritori, and Love or Loved 2. In Real War Chess, as I mentioned, Sora had to figure out the rules within the game itself. In any game, one simple mistake could lead to their own demise, but in Real War Chess they were taking the largest risk by not knowing anything about the game upon entering it, with only the hope that they would be able to read the magic that Kurumi was using to cheat in that game. Beyond that, they just had to rely on their own skills, intellect, and their own previous experience with games to be able to overcome that challenge. When we get to Materialization Shiritori, however, Sora and Shiro won that game from the first move. That is when Sora declares victory. He knew a little bit about the game before it began, that the Flugel are an information-hungry race. That is all they care about, and, in their arrogance, think that they are above all lesser beings. And it was those two key points of info that really led Sora to his victory. He was able to declare that victory upon the first move. He was able to grasp the game much quicker than before, now that he has this excess information, that he's been in this other world for a little bit longer, and he was able to win on that very first move. But then his strategy progresses even further when he gets to the game against the War Beasts. Before the game even began, upon challenging the War Beasts to that game, Sora declares checkmate. He declares that the game is already over before it even began. And that is because he had the crucial pieces of information left behind by the old king. He knew exactly what the War Beasts game was. He knew that it was a first-person shooter. And for Sora and Shiro, coming from another world where video games were their day-to-day life, this was a shoo-in victory. They already had the strategy in place, how they were going to win and overwhelm the War Beasts. Sora had manipulated the entirety of humanity to watch for any tricks that the War Beasts were using to make sure that cheats weren't obvious, as well as also coercing Feel and Kurumi into a game where he could use the two of them to also spy on the game with Feel's magic, where he could prevent the War Beasts from using any less obvious tricks that magic would be able to detect. So the War Beasts had to rely on their own physicality, which Sora and Shiro were confident that they could overcome. These three games of the anime truly highlight the importance that information plays. When you have little to no information and have to go into a game blind and hope that you're able to overcome the challenge that is ahead. versus when you have a bit more information and Sora and Shiro are able to win on the very first move, or have victory secured. And then in the game against the War Beasts, being able to declare victory before the game begins. When you have enough information, it literally becomes the power to manipulate others. If you have that one important piece, that Achilles heel to an opponent, you can crush them completely. When in other situations, when there's no obvious glaring weaknesses, it might take a number of different pieces of information to put pressure points on a given opponent to eventually cause them to crumble. If you have the right pieces of information, you can manipulate your opponents into fighting each other, as Riku did during the Great War. He was able to get the right pieces of information about each of the other races, leak them at opportune moments to their own opponents, and cause them to fight each other, thus leaving himself and the rest of humanity relatively unscathed. Still took some damage here and there, but more than anyone else before him, he was able to puppeteer the war, control everything that was going on, all of these other powerful races. And in the future of the light novels, we will also see how information can be manipulated to cause opponents to come and face you, to put entire continents, entire races of beings at the mercy of two single humanity. Information is power in No Game No Life. When violence is forbidden and you have to use other ways and strategies to work the playing field to your own advantage, that is where information is key. And this is why humanity is both the most powerless race and the most powerful. They were powerless at the beginning because they had no way to gain more information and no way to use that information. But they are the most powerful because once they have that information, they are the most capable of using it, especially with Sora and Shiro at the helm. Because in reality, you could have all of the information in the world, but if you don't have the wisdom to be able to apply that information in the right way, then that information essentially becomes useless. But Sora and Shiro know how to use that information. Shiro with logic and reason, and Sora with tactics and strategy. The two of them together create the perfect entity to use all of the information at their disposal. And that is why they become the largest threat on Discord. But that's still a ways off in the future. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on how the importance of information is displayed in No Game No Life, and how the strategies and tactics of Sora and Shiro have evolved throughout the course of the anime. And as we move further into the light novels, we'll see how the more information Sora and Shiro gain, the more their tactics and strategies change. So if you're interested, stay tuned for that. And if you guys enjoyed this video, want to see more like it, make sure to subscribe to the Daily Flugel. And if you want to see some games played live, make sure to check out my Twitch channel, linked in the description below. I stream every Tuesday and Saturday. But with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Ashente.